Hello and welcome to the stream, everybody. What a race. It's all wrapped up. It's all over. It is Antonio Felix Da Costa who has won the championship. Jack Pickering is joining me below. Hey Jack, how did you find the race? Hello.
I didn't really find it amazingly exciting compared to the other races that we have had in Berlin so far this week. I thought it was a decent race, but there wasn't really much that just happened overall throughout the race.
No, I agree with you in terms of we've had some very different races, right? We've had some carnage races, we've had some tactical races, and for me, this was like a normal race. Jack, turn your volume down. I can hear your race stream, I think, in the background.
Oh, forgot to mute that. Forgot to mute that. There
Never
we
mind.
go. Sorry, everyone.
We've had some really different... And hi, Chris and Matt in chat as well. Great to see you. If you have any questions, feel free, because obviously this is much better with you guys letting us know how you thought the race was and so forth. But yeah, I thought we had some really different races. The carnage, the tactical battles. This one was like a normal, standard race, in my opinion, in terms of, you know, there was just lots of little battles, lots of little overtakes, but not really entertaining, and it all sort of came down to the end. And again, attack mode, I think, played a huge part in making this race, you know, interesting with the Nissans.
Oh, definitely. Attack mode was the whole thing of this race. I don't think there was anything else that was really spicing it up. Yes, we had the two at the front. Yes, we had the two Cheetahs, two Nissans. But apart from that, there wasn't really much about the field. I think the biggest part of that race was lap 1, turn 4, I think, in the end. Yeah,
and let's just talk Da Costa, because what an absolute amazing season he has had, right? So let's go through he didn't score any points in Diriyah. He got a 10th place in the second race, but since the Diriyah weekend, right, he has been super consistent, picking up he's got a win in Marrakesh. Okay, then he had the 2 wins in Berlin, and then he had 3 second places, obviously 1 in Berlin today, Mexico and Santiago. Like, when you look at those results, there's no wonder why he's won the championship this early. That's just unstoppable. Like, so consistent. You rarely see that in Formula E.
Yeah, no. This is the earliest that the championship has ever been won. No one has ever won the championship with 2 races to go. The earliest was Jev back in season 4 against Sam in New York, but yeah, apart from that,
which was one race prior to the season ending.
Yes, every other title, every other championship has gone down to the final day between 2 rivals. Even in season 3, where Di Grassi overhauled Buemi by a huge amount of points,
that
it
was
still
the final
went to
race
the final
in
day.
Montreal. You know, season 1 as well, season 2. Like, the championship always went down to the wire, and obviously this is probably the first time, the earliest the championship has ever been won by Antonio Felix Da Costa. So, an absolute great job by him. Tech Cheetah as well. Before we get into what Antonio Felix Da Costa had to say, he had quite a bit to say after the race. Obviously, it was very emotional, but there were some very interesting questions that was put to him from the press, which we'll get to in 2 seconds. Let's just talk Tech Cheetah.
I would just like to address the chat for a couple of seconds. Matt says that I need to empty my garbage. I assume that he's referring to my laundry bin, which is there. Well, it's kind of, I use it for a laundry basket at university. That's got a whole load of A4 paper that I haven't used in a light in. I need to take that back to uni in September, so I'd just like to address that issue.
Can't be looking like that, though. You know, it's not looking great.
Hang on. So,
there we go. The laptop covers it. Sorted. Right, so let's talk Tech Cheetah then, because they've been unstoppable, right? You know, they've won the last 2 teams championships now, and it could have been 3, right? Remember, we're going back to season 4, and we were talking about the season 4 championship with, you know, Audi at that time, and Audi nipped it on the final day. Verne won the Di Grassi obviously won the championship that year, and I think Audi took the team's championship as well. And, you know, but Tech Cheetah lost out on the final day after a great, you know, season for them. So they've been dominating for so long. And when you look at Formula E, when you look at, you know, the teams and how competitive it is, for Tech Cheetah to win 2 championships back to back and nearly win a third, you know, emulating Renault Edams at the beginning of the series, but I think now the series is far more competitive than it was at the start when Renault Edams took those 3 titles, team titles. I think that's one hell of an achievement.
Oh, 100%. How they've just come through from... Because you need to remember, this team started in Season 3. This isn't everyone who's had 6 years of experience. This team was born in Season 3. These were latecomers to the series. And apart from that debut year, they have won championships every single year. And yes, you say that they could have won... won the championship in Season 4. Yes, they could have done. But against Audi, who was head and shoulders above the rest, I think it would have been a bit of a push for Techeetah to actually win that year, and they were lucky to take it as close as they did, and lucky that Audi had a torrid start to the season. Lucas not even scoring a point until 4 or 5 races in. But yeah, no, Techeetah really are a force to be reckoned with, and yeah, and they've shown it with Jeff the last couple of years, and huge congratulations to Tony Dak. He's been absolutely fantastic this season, and definitely deserves this championship by a long way.
I agree totally. I just realised my mic is miles away. I'm now just going to bring it a bit closer.
Yes, you went quiet for a second.
If I sounded quiet, I realised that my microphone wasn't actually very close to me. I just looked across and I was like, why are you over there?
Now I need to turn my volume down.
Oh no, this is a disaster. Anyway, so Da Costa, this is what he said. So this was really interesting that came out from the media pen afterwards that I was just listening before.
Oh, that reminds me. I need to get into it.
So what was interesting was Da Costa was asked a question, because obviously when Verne won his first championship, he was offered an F1 seat, or was offered a chance at an F1 drive, but Verne turned it down. Da Costa said, do you think this could be a gateway for you returning to Formula 1? And he says, I'm not interested. He said, I'm not interested in turning into Formula 1. He thinks that opportunity for him is gone, and he definitely wants to, think about Formula E. He said it's the most fun he's ever had. And, he was so emotional, Da Costa. Even me, I was writing the race report, and I was like, well, and you were writing a race report as well. And, well, we were both writing a race report.
Were we?
And, yep, we were. No, but I write a race report for other people as well.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why you do the Formula E Zone race reports. As I said, as I was writing the race report,
I would just like to
stop.
point out that I've only just logged in and Nissan Edams are on right now, so.
Okay, that's fine. Just listen to what Roland has to say while I speak. And what I find interesting is just the emotion of it, and how he was so caught up in the thing. And I even stopped my race report just to, think, what on earth, that is such a big thing for him to say. Jack, you're looking really red. What's happened?
They just walked off the stage. That was it.
Okay, never mind.
Because I forgot to sign in. Sorry.
Never mind. It's okay. We'll catch up with what Roland had to say later. I'll try and see if I can find something that says what Roland had to say about the incident. But what in terms of Da Costa, and obviously how emotional, how he thanked BMW. There's a lot of thanking going on, and you could see how much it meant to him.
Proper welling up in the box. It was
hilarious. I think most of us was. Even I had to stop what I was doing. It was one of those Lando Norris. I didn't, crying because I'm crying.
I didn't, because I was too busy writing the race report, and I missed the majority of what he said. Sorry, fly. Got my window open.
But no, it was incredibly emotional. Obviously, he had his family there on the Zoom sort of thing on the big screen. They were cheering with him. He said that he had, after Red Bull, he was thinking of quitting, and he was just talking in the press conference there that he thought, he was going to have to go back to university, go back to school, find a different job, or he'd just race some GTs on the side in some AM class. And, that would be to just, so he could continue racing. And then he obviously, within a week, I think the BMW thing came along. He said, great, I could quit school, don't have to go back to school. And,
living the dream. Living the dream. No one wants to go to school. Course. It's horrible. Why would you ever go to school? And then
obviously, he was there at BMW.
Having a career in a school, that's just...
Oh,
I don't understand why people... I don't understand why teachers do it.
No, fair play. Nice little dig. But anyway, then he comes, he's got the BMW drive, and as he said, he thanked them because he said if it wasn't for them, this opportunity wouldn't be here. They believed in him, and there you go. Like, absolutely unbelievable. Like, I really feel for Da Costa in terms of, I'm glad he's won it. I'm glad, he's got that off his, back. He can put his two fingers up to Helmut Marko and say, look, this is the driver you got rid of. And boom, there you go, championship, and fully deserved.
100%. He's been phenomenal. Not even just this season, but in previous seasons as well. We've seen, I think his only dip was season 3, where he had 1 point scoring finishing Hong Kong, and that was it. But every other season, even in like really underperforming cars, like when he was at Aguri, he always did really well in the Aguri. He won that race in Buenos Aires back in season 1 against all odds. And yeah, no, so he's been fantastic over the years, and definitely this year to take 3 wins in a row. If you take 3 wins in a row and don't win the title, then something's seriously gone wrong. Sebastian Buemi, season 3. Hello. But yeah,
but he did miss 2 races.
He did miss 2 races that year. But to be honest, Da Costa could miss 2 races, the final 2, if he just doesn't want to turn up. He will turn up, but he could miss 2 races.
He could miss 2 races. He could go back to Portugal and celebrate with his family and friends, but he's not going to because he wants to win a couple more races, I think.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Actually, one thing that I was thinking about and never got around to looking up, what's the highest amount of points scored in a season?
Oh, don't put me on the spot right like that.
Because
no, I think it's like 100.
I think it's Degrassi in season 3, but I might be wrong.
It might 160 odd ish.
I'm gonna look it up.
I reckon it's tight because I think last season was about 154 because it gets tight and drivers were tied in like the hundreds. Chris says Vern season 4 was, but it couldn't have been Vern season 4 because it may be Vern season 5.
No, Vern could have been season 4 because that was the one
where
Vern
he was... season 4, of course. He did win the championship. What am I talking about? So Vern won the championship in season 4. For what second I thought that was Degrassi year, but that was season 3.
No, Degrassi.
But you can search that up.
Yeah, no, I'm doing
because
it right now.
I'm going to talk about Nissan. Okay, let's talk Nissan because I think they had, it's really weird of how topsy turvy this grid is at the moment in terms of who is actually challenging Tech Cheetah. We go from one race yesterday. We're thinking, okay, it could be BMW. We go into this, season 6 finale going, oh, it could be Jaguar. And then all of a sudden today, Nissan pop out of nowhere and are the second best team by far, 3rd and 4th, doing a great job. And then all of a sudden, then you've got this, then obviously they take attack mode, okay, but they failed to get the undercut. The first one might have been a bit early, arguably. Bit early because they kind of got boxed in, but the second one they did it and they just missed that, which was huge. Well, I thought attack mode, played a role. They tried to use the undercut to get them, but I didn't. They were on similar energy, but Buemi and Roland, but they did the swap, and then Buemi mucked up turn 6, which put Roland under pressure. So I just want you to think, Jack, what do you think of Nissan's race? Because what do you think of their attack mode strategy, trying to get the undercut on Tech Cheetah, and then the swap between the 2 drivers and how it was conducted?
Yeah, no, I think Roland let off the gas at the right point to let Buemi through, but Buemi absolutely botched turn 6, and that meant that Roland was under pressure from Nick de Vries. I think that they had a solid race. I think, yeah, I don't think you could have done much better than you could only have done one place better than that.
There you go. It's hard. It's hard. I struggled with that name.
You had a problem with that the other night.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the Cheetahs were unstoppable today, and there was no catching them at all. So yeah, no, Nissan had probably the best race they could have done. Yes, even Buemi was upset about Roland losing that position on the final lap, because I would have thought, had Roland maintained position, they would have swapped places, which meant
Yeah,
that
I had a feeling
Roland,
that could have happened.
because after the race I got very confused. Like, hang on, why didn't he give it back? And then I realised De Vries finished fourth.
Yes, De Vries obviously got it at the hairpin, but because of Buemi botching up turn 6, it allowed De Vries to get right there. And well done to Franco. He said Jeff had 198 points in season 4.
He did.
Which was the highest amount of points at the moment. And obviously Da Costa could still beat. Which Da Costa could still beat, yes, of course.
He has 156 at the moment, so he is 32 points off that.
Yeah, Matt says Nissan really screwed that up. Sorry, neither car was going to catch the DS.
42 points, my apologies.
42. So, as Matt says, Nissan really screwed that up. Neither car was going to catch the DS by having them switch. It cost Roland the position. Yep, I totally agree with you, Matt.
But good,
if I was Roland...
Good, De Vries have done down the inside of Buemi. I think he would have done as well. I think 3rd and 5th was probably the best that they could.
I don't know. I think De Vries was there, and to be fair, De Vries, I'm going to talk about him in 2 seconds because what a race he's had, and what a season I think he's having since this post-COVID stuff, and we'll get on to him very quickly. But yeah, I just think if I was Oliver Rowland, shame we didn't quite catch what he had to say, but we'll catch it and then we'll do a news story about it. So stay tuned to Formula Rezone's website later tonight, or never worries. And catch that either tonight or tomorrow, depending on when we get a chance to look at it. But I just thought, why? Yes, Buemi had saved up a bit of energy, but to be fair with Roland, it was still about, probably half a percentage, because they were still like, Roland went down to 14 first, but it wasn't long before, Buemi was then down at 14%. So I just found that quite confusing. Why they decided to switch and risk, because it was a risk. Tech Cheetah managed to master it beautifully and probably did it at the right places to switch, Da Costa and Verne. And then, that was a masterclass of how you do it. And Nissan absolutely just went, no, don't know how to do it. And it cost them, 3rd and 4th was on the chance to prove that they were the second best team, but they let Mercedes get in there.
Yeah, and I think Mercedes are... The thing is, Mercedes have either had really good luck or really terrible luck the last few days, because Stoff fell out of title contention yesterday with a puncture. Nick's been there or thereabout, but he had the problem on Thursday as well, and then because of that, he got the penalty. So Mercedes... we forget this is their first year in the sport. Yes, they were HWA last year, but this is their first official year in the sport. This is their first powertrain as well. They used Venturi's powertrain last year, and so yeah, I think we should remember that Mercedes are rookies and they've had an absolutely stellar year. Yes, they should have. Yes, they could have had more and really should have had more, but I think they're still going to walk away from Berlin on Thursday evening, just going like, no, that's a good season, and then maybe go for the title next year. See how it shakes up in Santiago in January.
It was interesting what Buemi said after the race. He was stating that the team, obviously they had that dual powertrain. They were really quick coming out of the corners last season, and obviously that was banned for this season, and they came in on the back foot. So I think for them, obviously they'd be happy, but Buemi said we had to do a lot of catching up to do, and he said the COVID-19 period really helped us catch up just that little bit more. And you know what? When we're talking about, I think next season's going to be incredibly interesting, because we keep saying that about Formula E, but Tech Cheetah are obviously the team to beat. But you're expecting the likes of Mercedes now, after such a strong season, to potentially catch. Nissan to put in a good performance and catch. Can Audi, sort of reclaim where they were? Porsche, out of these top manufacturers, Jaguar, who's going to... One of these manufacturers must put on a charge to DS and Tech Cheetah, because we can't just have a one-horse race, not in a field where it's this close. And you may argue that we haven't had a one-horse race in terms of Tech Cheetah dominating it and winning the championship today, because obviously teams have done decent jobs and are up there, but they just need to be more consistent, and I think Tech Cheetah have just been super consistent. And, drivers are coming out saying we've got to master qualifying, but I think Da Costa this weekend has shown that yes, they may have a tenth or two over some teams, but getting from Group 1 into Superpole is not impossible. And Maximilian Gunther did it yesterday.
Yeah.
And you're just like, sure, it's not an excuse anymore. And I don't think drivers can be taking it as an excuse anymore.
Well, yeah, especially here in Berlin. In Berlin, it's not. Group 1 is not a disadvantage. Group 1 is it's still the worst group, but yeah, it's a lot less of a disadvantage than somewhere like Diria, somewhere like Mexico City, where being Group 1 could put you second and a half off the pace by the end of group qualifying. But so yeah, especially here, there's really no excuse. But I do think that there is just something with Da Costa and that car that has just worked in perfect harmony these last few races, and that's what sent them to the top of the. That's what kept them at the top of the table, and that is what gave them this title. Whether it's going to be the same going into season 7, nobody knows in Formula E. But yeah, no. Regardless, it will be very, very. It will be very, very interesting.
I think it will be, and I think that's the interesting thing to come from this, and sort of to look into next season and who is going to catch them, because someone's got to. But I do think now, going into the future, in terms of with Group 1 and that sort of thing, if you want to, win this championship, you've got to get out of Group 1. If you're in the Group 1 at the early stages, you've got to get as high up the field as possible. You can't do a Sam Bird, you can't do an Alexander Sims at the moment, and qualify down in 17th and 20th, because you're never ever going to win a championship like that.
And wait until you've got low enough points to get into Q2, and then go up to there.
Yeah.
And then you're back in Q1 and you go back down to 20th.
Exactly, but the thing is, I just don't think that'll be an excuse anymore. I think, if you want to be a top Formula E driver, it doesn't matter about the grip surface. You've got to try it and put a lap in. And if you are 17th, you'll be looking at that thinking, oh my God, that I did an atrocious lap. Because there will be someone in that group who is at a similar pace to you, who is starting 10th or 9th. And you'll be looking like, and I'm starting 17th. And if you're the one starting 17th, I feel like you're going to fail effectively. But Nick de Vries, let's talk him very quickly. I think he's got a huge future in this championship. I really do. The performances that he has been doing lately in that Mercedes, and I'm surprised Matt, who said he's a huge Mercedes fan, must be delighted with the driver lineup at the moment. And probably, I know you're a big Van Dorn fan, but we'll hopefully be hoping he can actually do some of the performances that de Vries is doing at the moment, because he is on fire.
We've just like to point out, we've just hit 100k channel points. Don't know what that does, but good job, everyone.
Okay.
Yes. Nice. Mercedes. Yeah. Van Dorn. Van Dorn has had a really bad couple races, because going into yesterday, we thought, okay, he's the closest competitor, because he qualified really well yesterday, and then he got a puncture, and Da Costa gained even more points. And then today he didn't string up the qualifying lap. He started down the field. But at the end of the day, that's just Formula E. That's just Formula E. You just don't. If you're in the top bunch, you are in the top 15, basically. And then and the thing is, we do get a few surprises from Group 4 and a little bit of you could basically, if you're in groups 1, 2, and 3, you're going to do. You are one of the best drivers in the championship. If you're in Group 4, you're not as good as everyone else is, but you're still good. So yeah, and that's why we give them the track advantage at the end of the session. But yeah, it is really, really hard to excel in Formula E, and massive props to Cheetah and Da Costa, who have constantly done it now. and we are starting to see a pattern emerge. We're starting to see the bottom two teams and the second bottom two teams, and then the top team, and then the massive midfield battle. But Mercedes is in that midfield. They just need to try and to break into that top, because the thing is they have the potential. Nick is still a rookie. He's done a fantastic job this season, and he's only going to learn even more going into the following season as well. Stoff has proven this year that he is a proper podium contender, championship contender. It's just that he has had an awful lot of bad luck, especially here in Berlin. And so yeah, it isn't really that it isn't their fault, but they do kind of need to pick up the game, and then hopefully in these final two races we do see a bit more shuffled up of the pecking order. Maybe a Mercedes at the top, because we'd love to see a new manufacturer take a win in Formula E.
Well, of course, but as I said, I think next season, and I think Chris makes a great point in chat, where he says Porsche with Verline, if Verline does go down, we're not all like laughing at, they're going to sign somebody else. Verline and Lotterer should be a massive lineup, and it's just like, I think that would be just as good as Da Costa and Verne. And the thing is, I think the driver lineups for some of these manufactured teams now are getting incredibly strong. But what I want to move on to very quickly is the BMW. If Pico does the emo hair flip, I may lose it. I think that's because his hair is so long, Matt.
Yeah.
And he can't.
It is disappearing in 1.5 weeks' time.
1.5 weeks' time. Finally. The beard as well?
Yes, and the beard.
Nice. It'll be amazing to see what you look like now, clean and shaven and haircut. I've had 2 haircuts now in the time you've had one. Oh my God.
Don't know, was that bad enough?
That was probably bad. I hope Matt hasn't left the chat now. But anyway,
I'm so sorry.
Moving on to BMW. Oh wow. Moving on to BMW very quickly, just with the Maxi Gunther thing and the crash at the beginning. You should do a stream shaving your beard.
I am contemplating that. I might do it on my Instagram, Jack Pickering, if you want to follow me on Instagram.
Nice little plug. Do so indeed. But obviously, let's talk the Maxi Gunther crash with Oliver Turvey. Obviously, he completely just lap one. That's the problem when you're in Group 1 and you don't qualify well, and if you want to win a championship, you're in that back of the field where all concertina's up, and Maxi Gunther, I think, completely misjudged it, and then off there he goes, smashes straight into the back of Turvey, and that is his race over.
Sorry, I read the chat. You're talking about the lap 1 instant, aren't you?
Yes, I am, but yeah, I would have loved to have seen an image of Matt's kid laughing at you right there. Never mind, I'm just going to shut my door because it's open in the wind.
Well, yeah, no, I've got my window open. There's been a fly in. Anyways, the first lap incident between Gunther and Oliver Turvey. Yeah, turn 4 is one of those like concertina corners where you where you do all bunched up. And so that whole first sector is rather slow and keeping everyone together. But yeah, no, it just seemed like someone came to a flop. Someone came to a stop.
Came to stop.
Not doing well tonight, am I?
There's the English word that we're looking for. But yeah, I agree with Chris. It was Gunther's error at all because he just completely misjudged it. And I said, that's the problem. That's what happens. Think Sam Bird last season, right? And when Sam Bird was leading the championship and then we came to Hong Kong and he was having these bad qualifying performances and he was just shuffling down and then errors start to come in. He was getting caught up in errors. And that's why I think now if you want to win a title in Formula E, you can't qualify badly anymore. Like if you qualify badly, you're not going to win a title. And if you look at John-Eric Verne, if you look at Antonio Felix Da Costa, they haven't qualified badly this season. Maybe Jev a bit more than Da Costa, but if you look at Da Costa, he has done a good job in qualifying and he's won the title because he's been in the position to win it. Look at Evans over these last couple of days. He's completely not qualified well and therefore hasn't won the title, and he was the closest competitor going into this, final 6 races of the season.
He has now scored points though. He finished 7th today, so well done to Mitch. It's his first points since Marrakesh.
Yes, you're leaning back in your chair.
I am making a weird face, like he really should have done better, Jaguar. Kind of face. But yeah.
As I said, I don't understand where their performance went. I spoke Jaguars here. Very interesting things actually. Not too much from what Mitch Evans said, but from what Collado said. Sorry, Evans just said he hopes that this new layout gives them more positives. He said the pace is there, but they said just qualifying has been poor. And he wants to be fighting further up the field. So that's what Evans says. Collado said it's not been a good... And obviously this could have been Collado's last race in the championship today. He recapped his Formula E career saying it's not been good for him. Obviously he said COVID-19 was not a helpful situation for him. He said, which is I think true of a lot of rookies.
Well,
like
if he recapped his career, surely he thinks he's not
recapped his Formula E career. Yeah, well, honestly...
He thinks he's not going to be in Berlin on Wednesday. He's going to be heading to Belgium.
Yeah, that was what the question I thought was hinting at, so I think he is going. But I don't know, it's not been confirmed yet, but that's what the sort of question, and he was sort of like saying that COVID-19 had not helped him. He found it really difficult to adapt the car. He think he was on an upward trend, James Collado, but just before COVID-19 came, and that was like the worst thing for him because it completely stopped his momentum in improving. And he said, and this is how he ended it about saying that he hopes he gets a chance again to race in Formula E. Because obviously he is leaving Jaguar at the end of the season because Bird's got his seat, but he is hopeful that he can try and find another seat somewhere else in the future.
Dragon, maybe? I think Dragon might... There will probably be a seat there. If he's wanting to go under Jay Penske. Braver man than me.
Well...
But
I just thought it was interesting, and obviously Jaguar's pace have completely disappeared. And yeah, it's just, it's such a shame because they did so well at the beginning of the season. They were okay. They fixed the car for Mexico. They looked like they were on such a high. They looked like they were the team to beat. They looked like they were a bit quicker than Tech Cheetah because in Mexico they were by miles.
Yeah,
but it's just gone wrong.
Yeah, we've seen so many dominant performances. This isn't like a normal season of Formula E at all, because we saw dominant performances in Mexico, in Marrakesh, the 2 Berlin races, the first 2 reverse Berlin races, and even today. So for Formula E, you never really hear the word dominant, and so to hear it so many times in one season alone is absolutely staggering. But all but one of them are from Techeetah, and only one of them is from Jaguar. And so Jaguar, I think they're losing the iPace trophy next year, and that might be a good thing for Jaguar. It means that they can focus more into their team and into the development of their car and their battery, which is good. And also you have got a big name coming into that squad next year with Sam Bird, and so you've got one of the best driver lineups on the grid of Sam and Mitch, and so the car needs to be good. But if it isn't good, I still think that Sam and Mitch will drag it into the lower places of where it's supposed to be. Yeah, and then Robin Frijns didn't start the race. Okay, so the reason why Robin Frijns didn't start the race was a powertrain issue. So basically they started the powertrain and it's cut out and then they couldn't get it started again. So that was the issue. They don't understand why that happened. But yeah, he just said it kept cutting out. So that's the reason why Robin Frijns didn't start. Sam Bird didn't have a great race before. Now, I want to talk Venturi. They didn't have a spectacular race, but Massa in the post-race press conference, obviously they did well. Massa going to Super Pole, but then fell back and finished in 10th. It's still points for them. They don't get that often.
Which was quite... so this is what Massa said, which I found was quite interesting, and whether or not he's considering his future in Formula E. Because he said that he's not having fun with these new safety car rules. So what I think he's moaning about is... is
retracting
the energy that is the energy that is being deducted, because he's saying we are not racing drivers anymore. He said all we are is like engineers in this car, because we're constantly trying to save energy, and it's not fun racing. He said I had more fun racing last season because there was times where I knew I could go flat, I knew I could push, I knew I had to save energy, but if there was things that happened in the race, I knew that would make me have a bit more fun. I didn't have to save as much energy. Now, I wrote next to that, forgive me Felipe Massa, I said, is that the dinosaur approach? Because obviously he is one of the elder statements in the series, and this is what Formula E is about. Formula E is about managing your energy and being as quick as you can while managing, and the car's supposed to be as efficient as possible. So maybe that Mercedes powertrain isn't as efficient as the likes of DS, for example, but I thought, man, if he's getting fed up with all these little energy saving techniques, they're not going away anytime soon. And we know he's on the elder side. We know that Venturi isn't the greatest team at the moment. Do we see Felipe Massa potentially leave after those comments?
Well, he signed a 3-year contract back midway through. I think he signed it when we were in Rome, because I remember Felipe being there in Rome, and I think it was around that period of time. So he signed it from season 5 up until the end of season 7. Now, obviously, contracts can be broken and things can change over time. I do think that following this year's performances, I think Felipe may think about calling it quits. I don't think Susie Wolff would want to get rid of Felipe. But
unless Felipe left by himself,
if they do have someone like waiting in the wings who could do a better job, or want to look around. I mean, like the name Oliver Turvey has been said 100 million times. But if Oliver Turvey comes knocking, I think he is a better driver than Felipe Massa. If I'm completely honest. And so yeah, I think. And so yeah, but I don't think it'll be in Venturi's hands. I think it will be Felipe to say, yeah, right, okay, screw this, I'm off. But the thing, he has not had a good season. He's only had 2-point scoring finishes, and one of them was today in 10th. The other one was 9th in, I want to say Santiago, but I might be wrong. Hang on, I've got it up on here.
But I just find it interesting that if he isn't having fun, that's the big telling point, isn't it? That with elder drivers, that they might move on. Matt saying in chat, you could easily put Collado. Chris says, how about Esteban Gutierrez if Massa leaves? And they're all good names. Especially Esteban Gutierrez, obviously very little Formula E experience, but Formula E experience nonetheless with Tech Cheetah all that time ago wasn't great. I just found it interesting. I'm not saying he is going to leave. I just thought those comments were interesting. The also interesting comments with Venturi is that they said they seem to be losing a lot of energy battling. Felipe Massa said, and Eduardo Mortara said, that we were saving energy. We saved a good chunk of energy, but as soon as we got into battles, all of that energy was just gone. We couldn't attack or defend without using too much energy. They were always over-consuming, which I thought was interesting because we've seen Massa, obviously yesterday was a bit more different, but we've seen Venturi go forward and then all of a sudden go backwards. And this might be explaining why they're going backwards so quickly. It's simply because they're struggling with energy when they get into the nitty-gritty of the midfield and battling drivers.
Yeah, I think I am starting to see a kind of divide between the teams. As I said, there's one that's right up in front. We all know that it's Cheetah. There's two near the bottom, which are Neo and Dragon. And then I think the two next to the bottom are the two next bottom in the championship. I think it is Venturi and Mahindra, because they're not getting all these brilliant results. Yes, Mahindra have had a fantastic week, but beforehand they were nowhere. And if they score, it is for the lower end of the points. And so they so you have the team. You have this midfield block of six or seven teams, I think it is. and then and then you do have Venturi's, but Mahindra are already quite far in front of Venturi. So on paper, Venturi are probably around the 10th best team in the championship, and they got a customer power unit this year from Mercedes. So it's the first year that they haven't made a powertrain. But yeah, I think Venturi, as Mercedes will develop, Venturi will start to pick its fights a little bit up the order as well. I think Massa did a superb job today, but yeah, I think it's these effects of one thing that's in common with Venturi and Mahindra the last couple of days. They've qualified rather well. Mahindra had 2 cars and 2 yesterday. Venturi had Massa today, and then they've dropped down the order and finished lower end of points and then out of the points for some people as well.
Yeah, I just find it interesting with Venturi and with what they probably want investors as well, but they have a big sponsor in Rocket behind them, so it'd be interesting to see what they do next season, and obviously they'll have the Mercedes powertrain and how they can utilize the software of that. But let's talk Dragon very quickly. I thought Dragons is interesting because we saw very early on Nico Müller was really struggling with energy, and there was a reason for why he was struggling with energy. Because they went aggressive. They went very aggressive at the start because they thought more rain was going to fall down. So they thought, we can go aggressive, try and overtake some people, and then when the rain came, they could save energy because they wouldn't be attacking as much and they'd recuperate the energy that they'd lost during the wet weather stage of the race. But the rain never came, Nico Müller said, so that was all for nothing, and basically their race was ruined because they'd used too much energy at the start, so they had to really back off towards the end in order to make it across the line. Fair play to Dragon for trying an aggressive strategy, but there was never... It did chuck it down after the race. It chucked it down. There was thunder, there was lightning. Even during the press conferences that we were listening to, you could really hear the thunder echoing through the microphone. So it did chuck it down, but you have to be 100% sure that this is going to happen. And, it never looked like, to be honest with you, it never looked like it was going to chuck it down like it did after the race.
No, honestly, I didn't even know that it chucked it down after the race. But yeah, I think, I never saw the rain. I never thought that the rain was going to properly come. And so I'm actually rather surprised that there was rain and thunderstorms after the race. But no, I don't think that the rain was going to come. And even so, I thought it would be light, and so they wouldn't be able to.
Which it was.
And so it'd still basically be a dry track because they're driving around it for 36 odd laps or whatever. And so yeah, there was I'm not sure why Dragon thought of that. Maybe they had a different radar saying like, yeah, no, it's going to rain in about 10 minutes, and then it's going to rain hard in 10 minutes. If it says that it's going to rain lightly in 10 minutes, it's still not worth it. But if you look on multiple reliable sources and it says it's going to rain very, very hard, then yeah, sure, I see the reason why. But I just didn't see the rain come down that much at all. I saw a couple streams across the camera, but apart from that, that was it.
Yeah, they were the only one that took that strategy. And Chris, obviously, on the Venturi side of it, he said, obviously, Mortara, and he was looking very competitive before lockdown. But yeah, I just don't know where his and Venturi's pace have gone. Dragon obviously went with the really aggressive strategy. And then to sort of wrap up some of the other teams, Porsche, basically, Andre Lotterer said it was a fun race, but he said it was just poor qualifying. And again, I think this is the excuse now. If you want to be a good Formula E driver, we've got to get away from these excuses in qualifying, and they've got to nail it. And I think we can see that it's been done before. And I know we're going to go to these street circuits back in season like Santiago, for example, Diriyah, where it is going to be dusty, but you're gonna. I feel like they need to do some more training or something. Because if you want to win the championship, I still stand by it. You've got to be good in Group 1. You can't be qualifying 20th. You can't be qualifying 16th. It is a damage limitation qualifying session, Group 1. But you're not going to win a championship if you're starting P20. So, and I think Porsche, a lot of that the same. And Mahindra, Jack, again, no race pace. Don't know why. We've got good one-lap pace. They're not energy efficient in the race. Again, they went back. Alex Lynn did manage to score some points, though, in ninth. So he picked up another couple of points, which will do his, chances of keeping that Mahindra seat for next season. All the well of good. But yeah, it's just interesting how Mahindra have improved. Like, they made a huge step forward, post lockdown now, but they're still struggling in the race. But they have made that improvement in terms of one lap pace, so it's getting there. But they'll be praying that their season 7 powertrain actually keeps their one lap pace and makes them have a better race pace.
Yeah, definitely. Nowadays, it's a lot harder to do well in Formula E compared to when they were doing well with Felix Rosenqvist a few years ago, because we got all these manufacturers in here now, and they are all at the top of their game. They've got used to the championship. As we said, Mercedes and Porsche are an exception because they're still learning, and so maybe in a couple of years they're going to be right up there battling for wins week in, week out. It's not saying that they're not already. They are fighting for podiums week in, week out. But yeah, no. So it is a lot harder for Mahindra to do well now. But yeah, the one lap pace is good because on a street circuit it could be really hard to overtake. So it's good, but the thing is, you do also need that race pace. Otherwise, you will just be a bottleneck, and people will eventually find a way around you after too many attempts.
Yeah, and I think that is pretty much it for the race show. We haven't covered pretty much. It was, as I said, it was a standard race.
So-so race. Wasn't
It was a standard race. I enjoyed watching it. It was a good race. Like, there was no problem with the race. But I think we've covered pretty much everything. Not a lot of action, but a lot of waiting around, a lot of tactical battles with the attack mode, which I like. But Jack, let's just finish up. Let's go return to, our champions and Tech Cheetah and Da Costa. That is a lethal combination at the moment. Da Costa and John-Eric Verne and Tech Cheetah, run by Mark Preston. How are teams going to stop them?
No idea, and that's for the teams to figure out and not us.
Yes, that's very true. I understand that. But you're just thinking at the moment, how can they be stopped? They seem to... the only way they can be stopped is if DS, with their new powertrain, create a dog of a powertrain, which they haven't done for a long time. DS.
Everyone else creates better powertrains.
Or everybody else creates better powertrains.
It's the old Mercedes in Formula One thing, where Mercedes keep on building bulletproof cars and no one else can hold a candle to them. So
at the moment, Tech Cheetah is in a similar situation.
I don't
yes,
think
it's not as
to the same extent.
Far.
It's going to be nowhere near to the same extent. Remember, this is still a single spec championship, but yeah, it's going to be I think season 7 is going to be exciting. I think Jaguar will come back with more. I think BMW will come back with more. Mercedes will enter their second season. Porsche will have a bolstered lineup with Pascal Wehrlein. Jaguar, the lineup's going to be amazing with Sam and Mitch. Roll on season 7, but we still got 2 races to go.
Roll on season 7 indeed. Let's enjoy these last 2 races. We will be back, obviously, for the FEZ show. The FEZ show will return on Monday. My cat will probably return on stream at some point as well. Look, she had to get involved. Just chilling though at the back. At least she's not meowing her head off. But I want to say a massive thank you. I think what we're going to do now is we might just continue to stream, but we might play some Motorsport Manager or something like that, depending on what people want to do in chat. If you want to play some stream racers, if you want to just play Motorsport Manager, and we'll continue the talking from there. Jack, I want to say a massive thank you for popping on.
Thank you. Sorry it was so last minute.
It's all right, no problem. But yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy your evenings, and we'll see you very soon if you decide to leave. Now, bye.